Hello and welcome to a tournament report featuring Prime Morgul and Makeda 3 that I had for a tournament this most recent Saturday. Um, it's a charity tournament called Focus or Furry, not Focus or Fury. Um, it's a uh, it's a charity tournament to raise funds for a local Rhode Island charity called Handsome Dan's Rescue. Basically, it's a charity for kind of shelter and placement and care for mainly kind of pit bull type dogs that get rescued from things like dog fighting rings and other other bad situations like that. Um, so it's really great. They bring some dogs over and everything else, and the store, the Armory in New Bedford, Mass, has been doing this for a while, few years actually. So I always try to make this event if I can. But here we go into the actual games. First game ended up being against Trevi the Great and his Signar. He was fielding a pairing of Haley 2 and Kara Sloan. As for my pairing, I had Morgul 1, which, if you've kind of regularly seen my battle reports, it's very similar to what I run, and also Makeda 3. And when I looked at the pairings, in thinking about this, I was worried that Morgul, while possibly better against Haley 2, because where I'd have Orn Midwinter to kind of help stop some of the spell casting and things that she could do, and plus she didn't have a lot of units. I felt that if I dropped Morgul into Kara Sloan, they would just get shot off the table. I didn't, especially with the battle group True Sight or the field marshal True Sight and everything else, they would just shoot off anything that would have to kind of try to jam up anything that she would have. Being that the True Sight would ignore their stealth and everything else, so I kind of felt that I had to really drop Makeda. And this is the list I brought. Going through it real quickly, it's Makeda 3, that green proxy base is Tiberian, Mullet Karn, a Sentry, a Gladiator, a Cyclops Shaman, a minimum unit of Annihilators, and a full unit, 2 minimum units of Pangiver Beast Handlers. So this picture here is actually the end of my first turn. Basically, this was actually ended up being my only turn. I thought that, Makeda 3 on a hill with 4 transfers and a shield guard for Tiberian would be protected. And under the normal cases, I feel that that's a safe bet. I wanted to kind of spread out the shield guards to kind of, I had one of the Exalted Court on the right in that zone there, trying to help make sure that I had Annihilator left, so that Annihilator could be Hand of Death and kind of go into the models that are straight ahead. And I'll be going over the Haley 2 list shortly. But on the left, I wanted to make sure that there was a few shield guards to kind of help out Mullet Karn, hoping that those were that mainly Mullet Karn, Tiberian stuff would be high value targets, and it's kind of moved up into position, and I thought everything was going to be fine. It's the bottom of 1. How bad could it be? So we'll go into the next picture, and we'll go into Trevi's second and last turn, but kind of more into what he brought. He brought Haley 2 with a Squire. Battle group was a Firefly, Thorn, Dynamo, a Stormclad. I think there might have been something else, but I'm not 100% certain. There were two of the new Gunmage Riflemen. There was the Black 13th. There was a Gunmage Captain Adept. There was Ragman. There was a Gobber Tanker. And in preparation for this battle report, I tried to put everything in War Room just to try to make sure that the list was correct. And there's still about 9 points left over that I don't exactly know what was in there. But anyways, regardless. So in looking at this, kind of what happened, if you're noticing that there's a fair amount of proxy bases that are out now. The green proxy base is still Tiberian. When he was planning out his assassination run, he had that small base that's on the hill as the kind of like final point on Makeda 3 getting telekinesed. And when he noticed that he can move up the Stormclad to be, within reach range of, a telekinesis Makeda, I think that kind of opened up the opportunities for this. So that red disc that's in front of the two Annihilators, that was kind of the proxy position for the Stormclad. That blue proxy base is Ragman. So he can make sure that Ragman was in 3 to be able to give the Stormclad Death Shroud to be able to bring down Makeda. Kind of as the turn goes, and I'll kind of go through how the turn went, kind of in a step-by-step process. It didn't even come down to the Stormclad. Basically, what happened was Thorn moved up, kind of right along that hill. I think it stabbed, or no, it actually did just run. And then Haley went. She cast a time bomb onto Tiberian, and the AoE was big enough that Makeda got hit with it. So now her defense is down by 2, so she's now at defense 13. He then cast a telekinesis on Makeda, moved her to that middle proxy base position there, turned her around, so now she's defense 11 for all of the guns, and then he reaction drived Thorn out of the way of where the Stormclad's positioning would be. Then he had the Gunmage Captain Adept. I believe it aimed, sniped, and did a flare shot onto Makeda. So it was looking at defense 13 on the hill. So the flare got on her. I believe I already took the shield got shot from Tiberian from some random shooting. I don't know if it was from one of the riflemen, or it was from somebody that I felt it was a big enough shot that I had Tiberian shield guarded. So she ended up getting flared, and then the Gunmage Riflemen were going into her. The Black 13th were going into her. And I was trying to save as much, as I saved my transfers as best I could, because I knew the Stormcloud was going to be coming in, and I was hoping maybe I can weather these smaller shots so that I could use just the 4 transfers, for 3 or 4 transfers for the Stormcloud, and then everything would be fine. So it got her down where she needed to start using some of the transfers, even with the armor bonus from Battle Driven. It still was very, very, very tough, and a lot of damage was going through on her. And then it finally got to Dynamo, and Dynamo's shots just ended up killing her. I think there was a Firefly that also went up as well. So if you kind of look at the Warjacks, there's kind of like a box of 4, kind of standing behind the Stormclad. I believe it's a Firefly, and I think the Firefly charged Annihilator just to get it within 5, so then Dynamo shots would be even more effective. So after Dynamo's shooting, it ended up killing Makeda, and he still had the Stormclad to go. After the game, we talked about how he was saying that if I pretty much just bricked up and just did whatever I could to keep Makeda alive, gave her 4 shield guards, for kind of on the approach, he's like, I don't think I could have stopped you at all. He's like, if Tiberian killed off the Stormclad, he's like that, all you had to do was just keep Makeda alive at that point, and you would have been able to mop me up. So it was kind of nice to hear that my list wasn't just a complete rollover. It was more just me playing it poorly and not kind of realizing the assassination potential that this kind of Signar list had. Haley too, I really don't get a lot of practice against her. A lot of the local Signar players just don't play her. So I don't really get a lot of, I guess you could say, a lot of reps in kind of preparing for this kind of thing. So, but this game definitely left an impression. So I don't think this is something that is going to happen again. And it was definitely good to kind of take this Makeda 3 list that I would like to use for gun lines to be actual kind of facing one, to kind of realize how I need to play it better and in future games. I can kind of think back on this experience and make sure that I have the appropriate amount of changes. So on to game 2. This was against Cordell. He's also a very good and dedicated Legion player. He brought Abby 2 and Saren. I had a feeling that regardless, because both the lists were very beast heavy, that this is kind of like an ideal situation for Morgul 1. Also, both lists, I believe, had double Hellmouths, which is just an absolutely annoying, obnoxious unit. If you're kind of aware of what's going on that's being talked about it, over the internet, and if you're thinking to yourself, well, it can't be that bad, that's just people theory crafting, and in games it's not going to be that big of a deal. No, really, it is. It's terrible. It's awful. It was a lot of topic of conversation throughout the tournament in between turns, and Cordell here was even saying, goes, yeah, even if they doubled the points to being 12 points a unit, I still might take 2. And he was freely admitting during the game, he's like, yeah, they're stupid and ridiculously overpowered, and something needs to be done about them because it's just dumb. But anyways, so onto the Absolutia 2 list. He had Abby 2. He had a Seraph, a Naga Nightlurker, a Nephilim Protector, a Scythian. In the back, kind of near the Titan Bronzeback, is Proteus. He also had a Rake, 2 Spell Martyrs, 2 Strider Deathstalkers, and a Forsaken, and of course the 2 Hellmouths. The Prime Morgul list, or the Morgul 1 list I brought, were Morgul, Titan Sentry, Bronzeback Gladiator, or Bronzeback Titan, 2 Titan Gladiators, Cyclops Shaman, Optimus Marketh, unit of Blood Runners, 2 Master Tormentors, a maximum unit of Beast Handlers, and Ornn Midwinter. So where we are at this point in the game, I think it was bottom of 2. We both kind of moved up. As you can see, we're playing in the pit scenario. The Titan Sentry ended up charging and killing one of the Hellmouths. I believe this is during the Legion turn, where this was after Morgul 1 feated, and he was having a really hard time trying to just not being able to do everything that he wants, because he wants to make sure that he's able to buy attacks and things of that nature. But with spacing and everything else, it was kind of being a bit of a pain for him. The Bronzeback ended up getting grabbed by one of the tentacles and pulled into the Hellmouth. Proteus was was attacking him with some of its tentacles. The Nephilim and the Scythian were going after the Sentry, weren't able to kill it. And the Seraph and the Naga Nightworker were just kind of hanging out back and just shooting. And while this was going on, I felt that things were just going to go downhill, because really, after Morgul's feet turned, if he can't get a good attrition advantage in the following turn, it's kind of rough, because if you don't attrition out and being able to have such a heavy battle group advantage after that, it really takes a lot of steam out of the game for Morgul. If you don't get a massive scenario presence, or just killing the other battle group, so then later on in the game the Titans just kind of have free range to just go and do whatever they want. So I was thinking to myself, I'm like, this is going to go bad, because he was still able to get a significant amount of damage. I don't think I'm going to be able to do a ton in return. So I was toying around with the idea. Well, actually, I shouldn't say toying. Seriously considering trying to go for an assassination on Abby. The idea of it is the Red Titan Gladiator was going to be rushed, abused, slam the Scythian. And I measured it out. Even with the minimum of distance of Grand Slam, he would have been slammed through Absolonia. The Gladiator would have been able to follow up and then start putting attacks into her. So I was like, okay, so all Morgul has to do is just, maybe charge that Nephilim Protector, and then stab it or sidestep or what have you, throw out a couple Torments. I just need one to do damage, then she can't use any of her transfers, and all this. And this plan was being like, I can do this. Yeah, this will be fine. He can maltreat a Fury and then get off 2 boosted Torments, so he'll have 6 Fury, so that'll be two boosted 9s that he would need on the Torments. And then I could go through with this slam, this Grand Slam assassination one with the Titan Gladiator. Well, as I was going through this and mentally in my head while my opponent was going through his turn, I didn't realize that the Scythian, I knew it had some sort of armor buff on it, but I didn't realize it was the new armor buff Bracer that prevents it from being pushed or slammed or knocked down. So I mentioned it to somebody else when they kind of walked over, they're like, how's the game going? And I'm like, well, I think I might be able to kill Abby next turn. And Cordell just kind of turned his head sideways and just kind of was like, I hope you're not thinking about slamming the Scythian, because he's got Bracer on him, so he can't be slammed. I was like, and it just completely took the wind out of my sails, and I was like, okay, I guess I'll do other things now. And we'll kind of go through the game on what other things I did. In kind of preparing for this kind of tournament report, looking at this again, I think it's still there. I just have to do it a little bit differently. So I'll just kind of go through how I could have done this assassination run similarly, still kind of potentially achieved it, but just did different actions. So all I would need to do was rush, abuse the Red Titan Gladiator. It walks over to the Scythian, throws the Scythian into Abby 2, and then after the torment hit, we could heal up the sentry, and then the sentry could walk over with with the reach from its halberd and everything else, and finish Abby off. with the hitting automatically rolling straight dice, with its base attack and 3 others, on average of 7 damage, that's 28 damage that she would have taken, um, and she would have been dead. So I still probably would have tried it, but when he would have said, can't be knocked down, can't be slammed, can't be pushed, um, my head also registered that as can't be thrown. But I need to remember that it's kind of like Ants and Dirt's feet, where, yeah, you can't do this, 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 but the models can still be thrown. So that was kind of a good takeaway from this. But anyways, onto what actually happened, and not what I would have liked to have happened. But so we keep kind of bashing out our battle groups. Proteus is doing a little dance around the Bronzeback, using its 4-inch tentacles to keep applying grievous wounds on the Bronzeback from distance. And eventually, it got to a point where the Bronzeback's spirit was out. So it was really, really sad. So on this next picture, the gladiator ends up as kind of a change of plans. Ends up killing, between the sentry and that gladiator, ends up killing the Scythian. The gladiator in the bottom of the picture ended up frenzying and killing Ord Midwinter. That was kind of sad. The Bronzeback also ended up frenzying, punching the Hellmouth for like 2 points of damage. But between some Blood Runners and Morgul going in there, we were able to finally kill off the Hellmouth. My Blood Runners off to the left were trying to kill Deathstalkers, but just could not hit. I probably should have used their combined melee attack, but I was just like, yeah, I'll be able to hit, and I just wasn't. And that rake was causing a bit of problems as well. And the Deathstalker that was on the right, kind of behind that wall, was just picking off beast handlers and blood runners and any little thing that they could, and the Seraph and the Naga were just kind of shooting off whatever they could. So in the next picture, Titan Gladiator gets into the fight, kills off the Forsaken. I think kills off, or helps kill off the Rake. Abby and the Nephilim Protector end up killing the Titan Gladiator. Abby walked over and was attacking him with her tail and stealing his fury from Energy Siphon. So that was kind of sad. And then she ended up just going back onto the flag and was just keep scoring on this flag. And that's kind of one thing that I've noticed with the pit a lot. It's just, if it's going to be from a scenario win, it's really just going to be from dominating your own friendly flag. I just didn't have enough stuff to really be able to stop it fully. He tried to sneak around a Spell Martyr onto my flag, so I had to send a Blood Runner over there and killing him, which I did. But the one thing that was really kind of cool about this was the Bronzeback lost his mind and lost his spirit. So I went up, I abused him, and I enraged him from the Beast Handlers and Morgul, and it, with its 6-inch movement, was able to walk into Proteus's back arc and just started buying its attacks. Only rolling 1 die. Still needed, I believe he only needed 3s to hit, and hit the two War Gauntlets, missed the chain attack headbutt, and hit the tusks, and was just doing so much damage that it actually brought Proteus from full down to 2. So that grab and smash headbutt missing would have killed off Proteus. And I mean, I'm not thinking the game would have really been different, but it was kind of a really cool thing to see. Bronzebacks are still incredibly scary, even without 5 Fury. Um, so it ends up as far as the next picture, you know, the Naga and the Seraph just kept shooting down the Bronzeback and shooting down the Gladiator and everything else. This ended up being the end of the game. I just wanted to kill off Proteus because I believe Proteus also finished off the Gladiator as well after the Bronzeback was dead. I just wanted to dominate this zone. Like, I knew he was going to get the scenario win, but I was like, you know what? I'm just going to take this zone. I don't care. So Morgul just kind of rushed out and just anatomically precisioned it to death, which anatomical precision proved to be more valued in this game because there was very easy ways to just one-shot the Hellmouth tentacles. So that was helpful. But yeah, those things are just awful. So, anyways, on to game 3. This time I played against a Ragnor Skysplitter player. His list was roughly Ragnor, Mulg, a Mauler, an Earthborn, a Bouncer, an Axer, a unit of Warders, a full Creelstone, and the Rune Bearer, you know, the internet's version of Troll Moses. Again, I dropped my Morgul 1 list into this, just knowing that another battle group heavy list, and with lots of tough. I got lots of greatest wounds, so I felt that was kind of the best way to do it. This was me advancing forward. I rocketed my Sentry over to potentially kill the Mauler. I wasn't able to get in with its shield and tusk attacks, but Morgul was able to feat and kind of help prevent the Sentry from dying. So this is kind of my opponent Brendan measuring out to see which of his beasts are affected where within my feat. The Paingiver Bloodrunners are jamming the unit of Trollkin Warders from that left-hand zone. Basically, I knew they weren't going to do a great deal, so I just threw them in there just to kind of tie him up, and I got lucky because he got excited on being able to have the Warders kill off these Bloodrunners and didn't move any into the zone. So that Bronzeback at the end of this turn, because this was his second turn, the Bronzeback ended up scoring on that zone. Actually, I think it was during my turn 3. But anyways, regardless, because of them not moving in, the Bronzeback was able to get a point, which is good. The Masker Tormentors, I just threw them way far out on the flanks to eventually get them in to start killing off the, threshing down the Creelstone. And I was incredibly lucky because as we will go into the next turn, this is during, I believe, his third turn. You can see, if you look in between the Red Titan Gladiator and the Titan Sentry, there's one of the Master Tormentors just deep in, just killing off Creelstone members. So his feat didn't do a great deal. Actually, his retaliation to my feat didn't really do anything. The Sentry ended up living. The Earthborn Dire Troll ended up getting slammed out of the zone. I hoped that the Titan Sentry would be able to finish off the Mauler, but with Ragnor's feat, he wasn't able to do it. Morgul was just trying to safely put himself in there. This is now with obviously with the warders kind of helping get back up in there. And as we get into the next picture, the Mulg ends up trying to go for, he tries to go for an assassination run on Morgul. The Mauler ends up picking up and throwing the Titan Sentry, and he throws it at Morgul, misses the throw, so I trigger dodge, and I dodge over to the left. So he takes Mulg, puts Pulverizer on it, charges one of the Beast Handlers, hits it with his fist, takes a free strike from the Gladiator, doesn't take that whole lot of damage. Beatbacks forward, takes his club attack into Morgul, misses, and then Morgul dodges out from Mulg again. So when we go on to the next turn, this is when things just went really, really badly. As you can see here, I have a ton of Fury out there, but I'm totally okay with it because the Titan Sentry finally finished off the Mauler. The Gladiator finished off the Earthborn Dire Troll. Bronzeback ended up killing Mulg. I think he had some help with the other Titan Gladiator. The Master Tormentors are I believe at this point killed off all of the Blood Runners, and I had Orn Midwinter just go up and help contest that zone. And I think at the end of this turn, I was up 3 control points to 1. Because before I moved Orn up, the Warders ended up taking the zone. Obviously not because they killed the Bronzeback because he was there, but I used the Bronzeback as a counter charge to when Mulg came up and for that assassination run the previous turn. So in the last picture for this game, he ended up knocking down all the Bronzeback and the 2 Gladiators with that Shockwave spell. And some of the Warders were going in, not doing a whole lot of damage. And then Ragnor tried to assassinate Morgul. Again, it just happens so often. Charge attack went in, boost to hit, ended up missing. Morgul dodges out of the threat range, and I ended up dominating the game, winning 5-1. So my first win for the day, but you know, this was a good one. I was happy with this. So as we will go on into game 4, kind of a new lesson for Makeda 3. Well, kind of applying previous lessons. We're taking on a Crix player. He was playing a Denegro 1 gun line. So basically he had Nis Hunters, 2 Arc Nodes, Madeline Corbeau, Orn Midwinter, Crow's Cutthroats, Nightmare, a unit of Blood Witches, Lord Rockbottom, and the Devil Shadow Mutineer. So, excuse me. So again, this is another one of those lists where it's going to be a ton of just shooting. And as you will notice, I have positioned myself where I'm surrounding Makeda with shield guards. Sadly, my deployment was off, and I accidentally left one of the Exalted Corp behind. So it had to run up in a later turn. So yeah, I believe this was the extraction scenario. So yeah, this is kind of him measuring out his first turn. As we go into the next picture, this was the first assassination run on Makeda 3, um, between all of the shield guards and battle driven and everything else, she was able to survive this run pretty well. Um, he took a lot of shots. He ended up charging Crow's cutthroats into her, which I'm surprised he didn't just keep shooting. Um, but yeah, so at this point, because she moved up a bit. She was away from the Titan Sentry, so she did only have three shield guards as opposed to four. But where a lot of the shots, I wasn't too overly worried about. The Nis Hunters were way out of range. Crow's Cutthroats are only POW 10, so they're dice -8. So I wasn't worried about that. And this was also under a crippling grasp and Denegra feat. So even still, where she's down to armor 14, I was willing to have Makeda just kind of take little blinks of damage, because as I have learned just through other various podcasts and things of that nature, you really need to watch out for Zera in this. So Rock Bottom and Zera can just take down casters. So I wanted to make sure that I had shield guards and transfers for that specific reason. So I was fine with having, Crow's Cutthroats just kind of do their little thing. I made sure that I shield guarded Crow's shot from Hiss, so I didn't have to worry about Makeda being hit with Silencer. So things were going pretty well. In the next picture was my response. I knew that Nightmare was going to be a huge problem, so I presented Denegra with kind of a bit of a distraction, and I named that distraction Mullet Karn, because I knew I had to give him a giant problem that he had to deal with, instead of sending Nightmare into Makeda. The idea here was to kind of hope that he learned from kind of the lesson before, like, okay, shooting down Makeda is not going to be easy. So maybe we'll just send Nightmare into her and just kill her dead that way. That way, all those shield guards won't matter. So I kind of threw up Mullet Karn as kind of like a, don't worry about that, worry about this. So I just advanced up a little bit more. The Titan Gladiator ended up punching Zera to death, and that was going to be his job for the entire game. Was just, if they bring her back, which is pretty unlikely, because I mean they might kill off one of the beast handlers, but if they bring Zera back, he punches her into the dirt again, and if they bring her back, he punches her into the dirt again. Like, that was his job. So the next picture, this kind of became a reoccurring theme as Denegra kept trying to kill Makeda. The Nightmare would go up, hit with both of his attacks, chain attack, grab and smash. He would throw Mullet Karn into Makeda, knocking both of them down, and then he proceeded to start shooting again. And still, she's got the shield guards around her, she's got transfers and everything else, so she ended up surviving. On to, and he's also with the Nis Hunters, they're also killing off my Annihilators as well. So on my the next picture is actually the feat turn. Tiberian is the one who ends up with Hand of Death on him, and he just goes and starts mowing down infantry. Gladiators just getting mixed up in there, and I wanted to end up having Tiberian next to Nightmare so that I could crit smite Nightmare through P. Denny, and then the Sentry could go and kill her. But unfortunately, that didn't work out. But again, it was another thing of, hey, here's this big scary target. Focus your attention on that instead of Makeda. So that's why the Sentry and Tiberian are both over there. The Nist Hunters were trying to still again trying to focus on Makeda, but I wasn't too overly worried with them. So on this next picture, this ended up being the final turn of the game. Denagra kind of moved into that water. Nightmare again grab and smash through the Titan Sentry into Makeda, which knocked her down. And the Nist Hunters just kept shooting into her, but wasn't able to finish the job. And at that point, my opponent ended up losing out on Deathclock. So I think even after this, Makeda would have been a really, really good spot. I probably would have just moved into that unit. The unit of Nist Hunters probably ground zeroed and killed off a whole bunch of them, or maybe just had her clear out a way so that the Titan Sentry could just finish off Denagra, and just kind of attrition it down. But we didn't get to that point. Unfortunately, my opponent just ended up clocking himself, which is kind of not the greatest way to win, but I'll take it. So at the end of the day, ended up going 2-2, which is it's kind of what I was expecting, and especially when my first two games were against Trevi the Great, a member of the American WTC team, and the Cordell, the Legion player who ended up getting second. The finals for the tournament was Kruger 2 versus Saren, and he ended up losing that. But I mean, with those were being my two losses, I was still kind of happy with how I played. I was glad that I was able to take the lessons that I learned from game one and apply them to this game, instead of just having the same thing happen over and over again. So it was a good day. It was a lot of fun. So thank you all. And when I do kind of more tournament reports, I will do them more in this style. Just kind of having all 4 games at once, kind of a shorter version of them. So again, thank you very much. Sorry for a longer report. I'll try to put timestamps, so if you just want to watch individual games or listen to individual games, you can do so. So yeah, so again, thank you very much.